So who am I speaking with?
I'm Josh Weinberg, the founder of the Digital Life Consulting Group.
And Josh, you gave an awesome presentation at the PRSummit about launch lessons. You're going to launch a brand new product. Here are the things you need to know, and you've counted these lessons up to 50 now, which you're going to be releasing a deck of cards, of which I had to explain to you there are 52 cards, but you've explained there's going to be a couple extra in there. But hey, give me 3 representative sample launch lessons.
Probably the most important one is that the launch planning begins at product conception, not 6 weeks before product completion. People start thinking about the launch as the party, and what they really need to realize is that it's the culmination of an entire process that comes together on that day when the party is, but the planning for it needs to start almost a year ahead of time.
So give me like good example, bad example.
So a good example is Bose. They go and release a product, and the day that it's announced, there's customer support listed on their site. You can log on to purchase the product. Everything has come together for that moment to be ready for the consumer. Because these rules are really about consumers, and the consumers buy consumer products, not technology products, and they act that way.
And how do you screw up on that?
Well, if you look at what Sony's been doing recently, they announced a couple tablets probably about a year ago at this point, and at the day they announced them, you went onto their website and there wasn't a lick of information about them other than the press release. Now, 9 months later, you can finally pre-order it, but we're still 3 months away from people being able to buy it. That's not the way you launch a consumer product.
All right, that's a great example of good and bad. So give me another good representative tip.
So the next most important thing is that during the launch, people need to think about the entire customer experience and not just the product. So they have to think about what's it like for a person to get information about this product? What's it like to buy it? What does it take to get it home? What's the unpacking like? And on and on and on until the moment that they dispose of the product. Where does it go when they dispose of it? And even if they buy an upgrade a few years later, are you moving all their preferences and data? And so this entire ecosystem of a customer experience that many companies don't think about. They concentrate solely on the product, and that's a big mistake.
All right, I want a good and bad example of that.
I think Apple is one of the best examples of this. If you look at, they control every element of the process and really play that through.
Bad example of this? I mean, everybody's figured this out?
No, probably just about every other phone company. Go into a Verizon store, and it's not always a pleasant process. And then when you want support later on, the people manufacture the phone are pointing at the carrier and back and forth.
I think they may be fixing that in the latest iteration because they've got a new backup system. But I just upgraded Verizon phone, of which most of my information went over, not all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so third tip.
So the third tip is that these companies are selling consumer products and not technology products. And too often we forget that. And because of that, they do things like give products model numbers instead of names.
Yes, I've seen far too many model numbers out there.
And I'll tell you, a bad example used to be RIM. They used to have the 2500 and the 5500 and so on. And as they started to go into consumer products, they figured that out, and they began creating the Pearl and the Curve and things like that.
But didn't they create the Bold?
And the Bold. So, while...
Wasn't that a big fart? But
so there are many other things they didn't follow, but for this particular... best practice, they really seem to have gotten that. While it didn't work out for them, if you will, in the end, you could definitely see them learning some consumer lessons in that process.
Excellent. Hey, Josh, thanks so much for your time on this. And if I want to learn about the next 47 tips, where do I go?
If you go to my blog, launchlessons.com, you'll find those tips there, as well as upcoming information about the deck of cards that will be published later this year.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, David.